The Ferragamo heel struck Veronica's jaw before she could raise her hands. She tasted copper and Christmas, blood mixing with the cinnamon from holiday candles burning in Water Tower Place's luxury storefronts. The marble floor was ice-cold against her cheek, designer shopping bags scattered around her like fallen soldiers. "You think you can just walk around here like you belong?" Dan Simpson's voice echoed across the atrium, turning holiday shoppers into an impromptu audience. His new fiancée, a blonde drowning in Burberry, stood behind him with her phone raised, recording. "2 years ago you were sleeping in your goddamn car. Now you're what? Pretending to be somebody." For a moment, Veronica couldn't breathe. The pain in her jaw was nothing compared to the humiliation burning through her chest as phones rose like a forest of witnesses, all capturing her lowest moment. Dan had no idea who she was anymore. No idea that the broken woman he remembered, the one who'd begged him to stay, who'd cried herself to sleep in that car with $23 in her account, who'd lost their baby because she couldn't afford to eat, was dead and buried. No idea she'd clawed her way out of that grave. No idea about the 3-carat black diamond hidden under her glove, the penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan she'd left that morning, or the titanium card in her wallet with no spending limit. And Dan definitely had no idea about the man whose last name she now carried, the man whose security detail should have been with her today, the man whose phone was vibrating in her purse right now. Ryugo Maekawa. Her husband. Chicago's most feared underground king. As Veronica's trembling fingers fumbled for her phone and Ryugo's deadly calm voice asked, "Who touched you?" she watched the first flicker of uncertainty cross Dan's face. Something in her silence. Something in the way she wasn't crying, wasn't begging, wasn't the woman he remembered. He just kicked the wrong woman. Welcome to the channel, loves. If you're craving stories of fierce queens, dangerous men and revenge served ice cold, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button if this kind of dark romance captivates you. Trust me, Veronica's transformation is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next. In exactly 14 minutes, when Ryugo's motorcade arrived from his meeting in the Loop, Dan Simpson's carefully reconstructed life would become a grease fire. His job, his fiancée, his reputation, his freedom, everything he'd built on the bones of what he'd stolen from her, would evaporate like morning frost under a blowtorch. But he didn't know it yet. Right now, in this crystalline moment of his ignorance, he still thought she was nothing. Veronica felt something dark and dangerous unfurl in her chest as she held her husband's gaze through the phone screen, blood dripping from her split lip onto the marble. Not fear. Not anymore. Something that whispered, "Let him come. Let Dan see what happens when you kick a queen." That was about to change. The security office went silent when Ryugo walked in. Not the comfortable silence of respect, the suffocating silence of prey recognizing a predator. The mall manager's hand froze halfway to his coffee cup. The head of security stood so quickly his chair hit the wall. Veronica watched her husband move through the cramped space like death personified, his tailored Tom Ford suit immaculate, his expression carved from ice. He didn't acknowledge the stammering manager or the security guards scrambling to pull up footage. His dark eyes found her, catalogued every injury with surgical precision, and something murderous flickered behind that controlled facade. "Out," Ryugo said softly. The room emptied in seconds. His fingers were gentle when they tilted her chin, examining the bruising blooming along her jaw, the split in her lip. But Veronica felt the rage coiled beneath his touch, a living thing straining against his control. "Tell me everything." She did. Not just today, everything. Dan stealing her savings while she was pregnant. The eviction. Sleeping in her car through Chicago winter. Losing their daughter at 17 weeks because her body was too starved, too stressed, too broken. Dan's text message the day after. "Not my problem anymore." Ryugo's thumb traced her cheekbone, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because that woman died in that car," Veronica whispered. "I didn't want you to see her. Only this. Only who I am now." His kiss was possession and promise, fierce enough to make her forget the ache in her jaw. When he pulled back, his eyes held something that made her shiver. "He will pay for every tear. Every bruise. Every nightmare he gave you." The penthouse felt like sanctuary when they arrived. Ryugo's second-in-command, Marcus Chin, was already there, tablet in hand, expression mild despite the tension crackling through the room. Where Ryugo was storm and fury, Mac was the eye of the hurricane, dangerously calm, unexpectedly sardonic. Boss, I've already got his social security number, credit score and his browser history. Mac's deadpan delivery cut through the darkness. Should I leak the browser history? Because it's bad. Like, explaining this to a therapist bad. Veronica felt a surprised laugh bubble up. Ryugo's mouth almost twitched. Almost. Not yet, Ryugo said, guiding Veronica to the couch. He knelt before her, medical kit appearing as if by magic, his hands reverent as they cleaned her wounds. Each touch was intimate, possessive, a silent vow written on her skin. We destroy him systematically. I want him to feel every piece of his life crumble. I want him to know why. Veronica's breath caught as his lips brushed her palm, then her wrist, working their way up her arm with deliberate slowness. Ryugo. Every bruise, he murmured against her skin. Every tear. Every moment he made you feel worthless. I will carve his world apart for all of it. Mac cleared his throat from across the room. Boss, you need to see this. He turned the tablet around. Dan just posted on social media calling Veronica a gold-digging stalker who's been harassing him. He's doubling down. Ryugo's smile was terrifying, all teeth and cold promise. Good. Let him feel safe for one more night. Day 1. Dan Simpson woke to a termination email. No explanation, no severance package. Just immediate termination from the corporate consulting firm where he'd spent 5 years clawing toward partner. He called his boss 17 times. Every call went to voicemail. What Dan didn't know, Ryugo owned 63% of the parent corporation through a shell company network so complex it would take forensic accountants months to trace. What Dan would never know. His termination had been decided over breakfast while Ryugo fed Veronica strawberries and mapped out his destruction. By noon, Melissa's father received an anonymous package. Inside, documentation of Dan's financial fraud, credit card statements showing charges to escort services during their engagement, and hospital records from Veronica's miscarriage with Dan's cruel text messages attached. Melissa arrived at Dan's apartment at 2 p.m., her face a portrait of disgust, her grandmother's 3-carat diamond already off her finger. You're a monster, she said, throwing the ring at his chest. My father's attorneys will be in touch about the gifts you need to return. All of them. Day 2 dawned with Dan's bank accounts frozen. Fraud investigation, the automated message claimed. His credit cards maxed under his name, charges appearing in cities he'd never visited. Poetic justice, Veronica thought when Mac showed her the transactions. The same financial suffocation Dan had inflicted on her, returned with interest. The eviction notice arrived by courier. 30 days to vacate his luxury Gold Coast apartment. Mac's voice cut through the penthouse war room meeting with perfect timing. Boss, he just tried to use his Centurion card at McDonald's. It was declined. For a Big Mac. Even Ryugo's stone-faced underbosses cracked smiles. Veronica felt satisfaction war with something darker. Unease at watching her husband dismantle a man's life with the efficiency of a surgeon removing a tumor. Day 3 social media turned feral. The mall assault video had gone viral, but now additional footage emerged. Security cameras catching Dan's verbal abuse. Witnesses posting their own recordings, think pieces about toxic masculinity flooding timelines. Dan attempted damage control, scheduling interviews with local media. Every request mysteriously cancelled within hours. Veronica watched it unfold from Ryugo's arms, his chin resting on her shoulder as they reviewed Mac's updates. Is this who you are? She asked quietly. This power. This is who I am for you, he corrected, turning her to face him. Only for you. He took her to his private shooting range that afternoon, placed a Glock 19 in her hands, his body pressed against her back as he guided her aim. In my world, queens don't hide behind kings. They stand beside them armed. His lips brushed her ear. You want to survive what's coming, you learn to bite back. The first shot startled her. The 10th made her smile. By the 30th, Veronica understood. This was love in his language. Protection through preparation. Trust through teaching her to be dangerous. That night, Dan sat in his car outside a Russian nightclub in Brighton Park, his world reduced to ashes and a growing certainty. Ryugo Maekawa had done this. A man in an expensive coat approached through the darkness, his smile sharp with opportunity. I hear you have a problem with Ryugo Maekawa. Viktor Volkov said, his accent thick with promise. Perhaps we can help each other. Viktor Volkov's office smelled like expensive cigars and old blood. Dan sat across from the underboss, hands trembling with desperate energy, spilling everything: Veronica's routines, her family's South Side address, the sister she visited every Sunday. She's his weakness, Dan insisted. Destroy her, you destroy him. Viktor's smile was winter in Moscow. You provide intelligence. We provide resources. He slid a burner phone across the desk. When we need you, we call. You make my Kawa bleed through his pretty wife. Dan pocketed the phone, feeling purpose ignite where his life had burned down. Across the city, Veronica sat in her mother's kitchen, watching Angel steal fries off her plate. Her sister was all long limbs and sharp wit, pre-med student with their father's smile. So when do we actually meet this mysterious husband? Angel teased. Or is he imaginary? He's real. Just busy. Busy doing what? Running Chicago. Angel's joke landed closer to truth than she knew. Dinner felt like sanctuary, her mother's cooking, Angel's stories about terrible professors, the normalcy Veronica craved. Mac waited outside, his presence both comfort and reminder that normal was gone. Later, at Target, Mac's commentary became entertainment. Ma'am, you're married to a billionaire and you're price-comparing paper towels. They're paper towels, Mac. His phone buzzed. Veronica caught his text to Ryugo. She just spent 45 minutes in the candle aisle. How many candles does one penthouse need? Ryugo's response was immediate. Buy her every candle in the store. Mac loaded 17 candles into the cart despite her protests. Boss's orders. That night, safe in her childhood bedroom, Veronica almost believed she could have both worlds. Ryugo's dangerous love and her family's innocent warmth. The smoke detector scream shattered that illusion at 2 a.m. Angel stumbled downstairs into hell. Flames consuming the living room, black smoke choking her lungs. She ran for the front door. Chained. From outside. Through the window, a hooded figure stood in the yard, phone raised, filming her terror. Dan's voice carried through the glass, casual as death. Tell your sister this is just the beginning. Angel's screams tore through the night as flames climbed the walls, devouring everything Veronica had once called home. The 3 a.m. call shattered Veronica's world. House fire. Mother in ICU with smoke inhalation. Angel missing. Ryugo mobilized his entire organization before Veronica finished dressing. They arrived at the smoldering ruins to find fire marshals cataloging accelerant patterns, their faces grim. The front door, still chained from outside, told its story. Attempted murder, the fire marshal confirmed. Mac appeared with his tablet, neighbor's Ring doorbell footage playing on loop. A hooded figure. Dan's build, his gait, pouring gasoline, lighting the match, walking away. Veronica's knees buckled. Ryugo caught her, his arms iron in sanctuary. We'll find her. Alive. I swear it. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The video loaded slowly, each second an eternity. Then Angel's face filled the screen, bound to a chair, duct tape over her mouth, terror making her eyes wild. Dan's voice off camera, conversational. You took everything from me. Now I'll take everything from you. Piece by piece. Veronica couldn't breathe past the image of her sister's horror. This is my fault. I brought this into their lives. Ryugo gripped her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. Do you think I regret marrying you? Don't you? His kiss was brutal, claiming, fierce enough to ground her. I regret that I didn't kill him when I had the chance. I won't make that mistake twice. Mac's fingers flew across his tablet. Got the metadata. Video was sent from Cicero, warehouse district near 26th Street. He looked up, something sharp in his expression. We can be there in 15 minutes. The motorcade moved through pre-dawn Chicago like predators hunting prey. Veronica sat pressed against Ryugo, his hand locked with hers, his other hand checking his gun. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark and silent. Too silent. Boss, Mac started. The explosion turned night into day. The warehouse erupted in a massive fireball, heat slamming into their vehicles even from a block away. Veronica screamed, lunging forward as if she could reach Angel through the flames. Her phone rang. Dan's voice, amused and cruel. Did you really think I'd make it that easy? Wrong location, sweetheart. Angel's scream pierced through the line, raw and terrified. Angel's screaming your name right now. Want to hear? The call ended. Veronica stared at the burning warehouse, Dan's laughter echoing in her skull, and felt something inside her break. If you're hooked on Veronica and Ryugo's deadly love story, drop a comment below and smash that subscribe button. Let me know, are you Team Veronica handling this herself, or Team Ryugo burning Chicago down to save Angel? The war is just heating up. The truth crashed over her like a tidal wave of Arctic water. Dan had forged an alliance with the Volkov Bratva. This transcended personal vendetta. It was calculated, organized warfare. Before sunrise broke, 2 of Ryugo's establishments lay in smoldering ruins. A critical port shipment vanished, intercepted with surgical precision that spoke of military training. 3 of his men were discovered in a narrow alley, their bodies bearing the unmistakable signatures of Russian execution, messages carved directly into their flesh. The command center pulsed with disciplined urgency. Underbosses delivered damage reports in rapid succession while Mac orchestrated counterintelligence operations. Ryugo stood at the table's head, every inch the commanding general assessing his battlefield. Veronica remained at his side, steadfastly refusing relegation to some protected sanctuary. Mac's sardonic observation sliced through the mounting tension. Let me understand this correctly. We're battling Russian organized crime alongside a man whose singular distinction is spectacular mediocrity at literally everything. This will either be pathetically simple or humiliatingly complicated. Scattered, nervous laughter rippled through the room. Then Veronica's phone vibrated insistently. The second video devastated her. Angel's face was grotesquely swollen, dried blood caking her split lip, her eyes radiating profound trauma. Veronica, please. Her sister's voice fractured mid-plea. Just give him what he wants. Please. Dan's ultimatum scrolled beneath. Abandon Ryugo permanently. Transfer $5 million. Post a public social media confession admitting she was nothing but a mercenary gold digger and pathological liar. Absolutely not. Ryugo's tone brooked no argument. We don't negotiate with corpses. That's my sister. Veronica's composure disintegrated. I can't simply. You can and you will. His fingers encircled her wrist firmly. This is his entire strategy. Isolate you. Reassert control over you. Then what's your brilliant alternative? Escalate this war until Angel arrives home in pieces. Silence descended like a suffocating blanket. Ryugo's jaw worked tensely. You don't contact him. That's non-negotiable. I'm not your subordinate. No. You're my wife. Which makes you a primary target. His grip intensified slightly. I will locate her. But not if I'm simultaneously terrified of losing you. Their argument continued in the penthouse. Intimate, vicious, raw. Veronica felt simultaneously powerless and infantilized, watching him attempt protection by constructing an elegant prison. She understood his terror intimately, she experienced it too. But Angel's time was hemorrhaging away. At 4 a.m, sleepless and desperate, Veronica decided. Mac had once shown her the service elevator, casually mentioning emergency escape routes. Her aging Honda remained in guest parking, keys still buried in her purse. The tracking bracelet Ryugo had insisted upon twisted off easily. Dan's message illuminated the darkness. St. Adalbert Church. Come alone. 1 hour. Otherwise I begin removing Angel's fingers methodically. Veronica drove into the pre-dawn void, phone silenced, heart thundering like war drums. In the penthouse, Ryugo awakened to frigid, empty sheets and a deactivated tracker. His bellow of pure rage reverberated through every wall. St. Adalbert Church rose from the south side decay like a Gothic monument to abandonment. Veronica's hands shook as she pushed through the heavy doors into darkness punctured by dawn light through shattered stained glass. Dan stood at the altar, casual as death. You came alone. Smart. Where's Angel? Safe. For now. He circled her like a predator savoring the hunt. You know what kills me? I had you perfectly broken. Sleeping in your car, begging me to come back. Then you became this. Disgust twisted his features. Playing queen to some Korean gangster. You never loved me. Veronica kept her voice steady, buying time. You just loved that I was small enough to control. And you took that away. His rage was a living thing. I didn't want you back, Veronica. I just can't stand that you're happy. Mac's voice whispered through the earpiece hidden in her hair. Boss is 2 minutes out. Keep him talking. She hadn't worn it. Mac had planted it in her car along with tracking and audio surveillance, anticipating exactly this moment. Where is she, Dan? Where's Angel? Somewhere you'll never. The church doors exploded inward. Ryugo's forces flooded the space, tactical precision turning sanctuary into kill box. Dan's eyes went wide with understanding. He'd been played. He bolted for the vestry. Mac's team pursued, but Dan knew the building, disappearing into underground tunnels before they could corner him. They found his laptop still running, surveillance footage showing Angel in an industrial location, blueprints of a meatpacking plant downloaded in the browser history. Veronica emerged into cold morning air. Mac stood waiting, deadpan as ever. Ma'am, on a scale of 1 to tell the terrifying Mafia boss husband, where would you rate that decision? Don't tell him. He's standing right behind you. Veronica turned. Ryugo's fury was incandescent, terror beneath the rage making him shake. You could have died. But I didn't. We got the location. I could have lost you. His hands framed her face, rough and desperate. Do you understand what that would do to me? Then stop treating me like I'm fragile. Her own fear bled through. I can't be locked away while my sister suffers. I can't. Their foreheads pressed together, both trembling. I can't survive losing you, he whispered. Then don't lose me. Fight with me. As equals. His kiss tasted like acceptance and terror and love too fierce to be gentle. Mac cleared his throat. Boss. The laptop data. Dan's planning something for tomorrow night. A live stream execution at the meatpacking plant. He paused. But Volkov's using it as a trap. They're planning to eliminate our entire leadership in one coordinated strike. The penthouse war room transformed into a tactical command center. Maps of the meatpacking plant covered every surface, entry points marked in red, escape routes in blue. Ryugo's underbosses coordinated teams while Mac worked intelligence, his fingers flying across multiple screens. Volkov's got 30-plus soldiers stationed there, Mac reported. Heavily armed. Thermal imaging shows their rotating shifts, professional military discipline. His recon mission had been a masterclass in barely controlled chaos, scaling fire escapes in a 3-piece suit, hacking security feeds from a dumpster, nearly getting caught by a Bratva patrol. Angel's alive, he confirmed. But they're moving her every few hours. Different rooms, unpredictable patterns. I'm going with you. Veronica's voice cut through the planning. I'm part of the rescue team. Ryugo's jaw clenched. No. You promised. Equals, remember? She held his gaze, unflinching. She's my sister. I don't stand aside while you fight for her. The war room went silent. Finally, Ryugo nodded. Then you train. 18 hours with my tactical team. No exceptions. The training was brutal. Hand-to-hand combat, weapons handling, room-clearing procedures. Veronica's body screamed, but she pushed harder, remembering Angel's terrified face, her father's death when they were young, the promise she'd made to always protect her baby sister. Mac's running commentary provided levity during water breaks. She's getting better. If we survive this, remind me never to piss off the boss's wife. By hour 16, Veronica could field strip a Glock blindfolded and execute a tactical role that would make action heroes jealous. Her body was bruised, exhausted, but her mind was diamond-sharp and focused. Night fell. In their bedroom, Ryugo pulled her close, his hands reverent on her skin. Their lovemaking was fierce and tender, desperation bleeding into every touch, the knowledge that tomorrow could steal everything. Afterward, he pressed something cold into her palm. A knife, the handle worn smooth with age, Korean characters etched into the blade. It was my mother's, he whispered. For queens who refuse to be victims. Veronica's throat tightened. She cupped his face, memorizing every line. Come back to me. We both come back. Always. His kiss was a vow written in heat and promise. 5 a.m. came too fast. The team mobilized, loading weapons into vehicles, checking comms equipment. Veronica wore tactical gear that Mac had custom-fitted, the knife strapped to her thigh, Ryugo's ring heavy on her finger. Her phone buzzed. Video. Angel's face filled the screen, beaten worse than before, barely conscious. Dan's voice cold with finality. Noon. Come alone or she dies screaming. This is between you and me, Veronica. Leave the king at home or I'll send her to you in pieces. The meatpacking plant erupted into hell at noon. Ryugo's team arrived in coordinated formation, but Dan had expected them. Volkov soldiers poured from every shadow, automatic weapons turning the industrial wasteland into a war zone. Mac led his team through the west entrance, suppressing fire echoing off concrete and steel. Ryugo took the main floor, moving like death incarnate, each shot precise and lethal. The firefight was massive, brutal, two organizations built for violence colliding in explosive fury. Veronica separated from her assigned position, using the building schematics Mac had burned into her memory. She navigated through a nightmare maze of hanging meat hooks and blood-stained floors, the darkness punctuated by muzzle flashes and distant screams. Her heart hammered against her ribs, Ryugo's knife solid weight against her thigh, his training the only thing keeping panic at bay. The freezer room was arctic. Angel slumped against the wall, barely conscious, hypothermic, her lips blue. Angel. Veronica dropped beside her sister, fingers fumbling with zip-tie restraints. How touching. Dan stepped from the shadows, gun steady in his hand. Blood stained his shirt from earlier injuries, but his eyes burned with obsessive clarity. You really thought you could just become someone else? Erase what we were. There was no we. There was only you controlling me. Veronica positioned herself between Dan and Angel, her sister's weight against her back. I made you. Everything you are exists because I broke you first. His voice cracked with desperate fury. He aimed the gun at Angel's head. Choose. You or her. You always thought you were better than me. Prove it. The woman Dan destroyed would have begged. Would have offered herself, pleaded for mercy. That woman was dead. Veronica moved. Ryugo's training taking over. One fluid motion, knife pulled from her boot, lunging forward before Dan could process the threat. They collided in a brutal struggle, nothing graceful about it. His gun hand swung toward her. She drove the blade into his shoulder. He screamed, dropping the weapon. She grabbed it. Dan fell to his knees, clutching his bleeding shoulder, finally understanding. You won't do it. You're not like us. Veronica pressed the barrel to his forehead, her hand steady. Angel sobbing behind her. This was the moment. Become what she feared or let someone else finish it. He pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through frozen air. Dan crumpled, eyes fixed in permanent surprise. Veronica stood over him, covered in blood, the gun heavy in her hand. Not revenge. Finality. The door exploded inward. Ryugo burst through, tactical gear splattered with violence, his eyes finding her immediately. Alive, unbroken, standing over her demon's corpse. Mac arrived seconds later, surveying the scene with his signature deadpan. Well, that's one way to handle it. Angel spent 3 weeks in the hospital, her body healing faster than her mind. Veronica sat vigil every day, holding her sister's hand through nightmares, through therapy sessions, through the slow crawl back to something resembling normalcy. The police investigation cleared Veronica within days. Self-defense, kidnapping, victim rescue, justified use of force. The Volkov-Bratva's leadership had been eliminated during the firefight, their surviving soldiers either absorbed into Ryugo's organization or scattered like ash. Chicago's underground had a new order and everyone knew who ruled it. The media circus painted Dan as a disturbed stalker, Veronica as a brave survivor. She let them craft their narrative, knowing the truth was far more complicated. She'd killed a man. Pulled the trigger without hesitation. And when she searched herself for guilt, she found only clarity. She'd become what was necessary. Angel struggled. PTSD manifested in panic attacks and insomnia. But slowly, with professional help and Veronica's unwavering support, she began to heal. Some days were better than others. Some days she could laugh again. Veronica's relationship with Ryugo transformed. They were partners now in every sense, equals forged in fire and blood. She understood her own capacity for darkness and had made peace with it. Loving a dangerous man meant accepting the danger within herself. 2 months after the meatpacking plant, Phoenix House opened its doors. A foundation for abuse survivors, operating under the full protection of the Maikawa name. The women who entered were untouchable. Everyone in Chicago understood that harming them meant answering to Ryugo. It was redemption and warning, charity and threat, perfectly balanced. At the grand opening gala, Mac escorted Angel through the crowd. She was beautiful in a silver gown, still healing but stronger every day, already volunteering at Phoenix House to turn her pain into purpose. His dry observation made her smile. Your sister went from homeless and pregnant to mob queen in 2 years. That's either inspiring or terrifying. Can't it be both? Fair point. Later, Veronica and Ryugo stood on their penthouse balcony, Chicago glittering below like fallen stars. She wore midnight blue silk, the black diamond ring catching moonlight. His arms wrapped around her from behind, solid and possessive and home. Regrets? He asked against her hair. She thought about the woman she'd been, broken, afraid, sleeping in her car with nothing but survival instinct. That woman was dead. In her place stood a queen who'd pulled the trigger to save her sister, who'd risen from the ashes Dan tried to bury her in. Only that I didn't find you sooner. Their kiss was deep and claiming, a promise written in the language they'd learned together. Violence and tenderness, darkness and devotion. Behind them the television played softly. A news anchor reported on a rising political figure being investigated for corruption. Mac's voice came through Ryugo's phone on speaker, amused and satisfied. Boss, the councilman's files just leaked. Media's having a field day. Veronica smiled against her husband's lips. Ryugo was expanding his empire and she was no longer just his wife. She was his partner in every move, every decision, every calculated strike. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. And there you have it. Veronica's rise from victim to queen, from ashes to empire. But this is only the beginning of her reign. If you loved this dark romance journey, hit that like button, subscribe for more fierce love stories, and comment below telling me where you're watching from. What did you think of Veronica's transformation? Would you pull the trigger for the ones you love? My next video is already waiting for you. Another tale of passion, power, and the dangerous men who bow to no one. Except maybe the right woman. Click that next video now. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Until then, stay fierce, stay fearless, and remember, queens aren't born. They're forged in fire.